You know that moment, standing at the kitchen sink, bottle upside down, squeezing the last few drops out like you're wringing a washcloth dry. And in your head, without even thinking, you're already adding it to the list. Dish soap. Again. $5, maybe $7, maybe $8, depending on the brand. You've bought this same bottle so many times you could find it blindfolded on the shelf. And somewhere in the back of your mind, real quiet, almost too quiet to hear, there's this thought that's been sitting there for years. This is just soap. Why does this cost so much? Why do I keep buying this? But you push it down, because what's the alternative? There is one. 3 ingredients, $3, 6 months. And your great-grandmother probably already knew it. And if this is the kind of thing that makes sense to you, not the flashy kind of advice, but the quiet, practical, old kind that actually saves you something real, then stick around here. There's more where this came from. Things your grandparents knew that nobody bothered to pass down. Hit subscribe if you want. But more importantly, go try this. That matters more than any button. Let me paint you a picture you already know. It's a Tuesday evening. The dishes are piled up from dinner, a couple of pots, a skillet with grease still sitting in it, plates stacked crooked in the sink. You reach for the dish soap, give it a squeeze, and nothing comes out. So you unscrew the cap, add a little water, swirl it around, try to get one more wash out of it. You've done this dance before. You'll do it again next week. And somewhere between that empty bottle and the grocery list on the counter, you feel something you can't quite name. It's not anger. It's not sadness. It's just tiredness. A small, ordinary tiredness that nobody talks about because it's too small to complain about. But it's real. Here's what makes it sting a little more if you sit with it. That bottle costs you somewhere between $5 and $8, depending on what brand you trust. Let's say you go through one a month. Some households faster, some slower. That's $60, maybe $90 a year, just on dish soap. Now, I know what you're thinking. That's not a lot. And you're right, standing alone, it's not. But it never stands alone, does it? It sits next to the laundry detergent, the hand soap, the surface cleaner, the drain opener. Dozens of little bottles, all running out on their own schedule, all pulling $5 or $8 at a time. For someone on a fixed income, or anyone watching their pennies honestly, that drip, drip, drip adds up to a river by December. But let's forget the money for a second. Pick up that bottle. Turn it around. Read the back. Sodium lauryl sulfate. Methyl isothiazolinone. Cocamidopropyl-betaine. Fragrance. Which, by the way, can mean dozens of different chemicals the company doesn't have to list individually. You need a chemistry degree just to read the back of your dish soap. And you stand there thinking, I just want to wash a plate. I just want the grease off this skillet. My mother did this with a bar of soap and hot water. How did we get from there to a label that reads like a pharmacy textbook? That question isn't silly. That question is the beginning of something important. And yet, most of us push that question down. We push it down because we don't have an answer, and when you don't have an answer, the question feels pointless. So you throw the empty bottle in the recycling, you drive to the store, you buy the same brand because at least you know it works, and the cycle continues. It's not that you chose this. It's that nobody ever showed you a different option. There's a word for that kind of trap, the kind where you're not locked in by force, but by habit, by assumption, by the simple belief that this is just how it's done. And that word is resignation. Quiet, undramatic resignation. The most expensive kind, because you never even realize you're paying for it. But here's what's interesting. There are people, entire communities, who never stepped into that cycle at all. Amish households across Pennsylvania, Ohio, Indiana. They've been making their own cleaning supplies for generations, not as a trend, not as a weekend project they saw on the internet, as a way of life. Dish soap, laundry soap, surface cleaners. These are things that get made in the kitchen alongside the bread and the preserves. It's not radical to them. It's not even noteworthy. It's just what you do when you believe your own two hands are enough. And the thing that might surprise you, the thing that surprised me, is how simple their approach actually is. I want to be careful here, because I'm not going to romanticize anyone's life or pretend I spent a summer on an Amish farm. What I will say is this. The general principle behind how these communities handle household cleaning is rooted in something our own great-grandparents practiced too. Before the big soap companies turned dish soap into a product with 30 ingredients and a marketing budget, people made it at home with 2 or 3 things they already had. This isn't hidden knowledge. Nobody locked it away in a vault. It's forgotten knowledge. There's a difference. Hidden means someone kept it from you on purpose. Forgotten means we all just stopped passing it down, one generation at a time, until it felt like it never existed. And that forgetting? That's worth noticing. So here's what I want you to sit with for a moment. 3 ingredients. That's it. 3 things you can find in any grocery store. Nothing exotic, nothing you need to order online. Total cost? Roughly $3, give or take, depending on where you live and which brand of bar soap you grab. Time to make it? About 20 minutes, maybe less once you've done it before. 1 batch, and I want to be honest, this depends on your household size and how many dishes you go through. But 1 batch can realistically last you 4 to 6 months. I'll walk you through every step. But first, I need you to hear what those numbers actually mean. Because this isn't about saving $60 a year. That's nice, but that's not the point. The point is that your gut was right. That little voice that said this should be simpler, it was telling you the truth the whole time. And that feeling, that small click in your chest when something you always suspected turns out to be true, that's where this gets real. You weren't wrong for questioning it. You weren't old-fashioned for thinking the old ways might have been on to something. You were just missing the recipe. That's all that stood between you and not needing that bottle anymore. 1 recipe, 20 minutes, $3. And knowledge that used to be so common, every farm wife in the county had her own version. Next, I'm going to give you that recipe, step by step, no shortcuts, no secrets, honest about what it does well and where it falls short. Because you deserve the full picture, not a sales pitch. Let's get into it. You need 3 things. First, a bar of plain soap. Fell's Naphtha is the classic choice, been around forever. You'll find it in the laundry aisle for $1 or $2. If you can't find that, a plain Castile bar works fine. Nothing fancy, nothing scented, unless you want it to be. Second, washing soda, not baking soda. I need to say that again because this is where people trip up. Washing soda is sodium carbonate. Baking soda is sodium bicarbonate. Different things. Washing soda comes in a yellow box. Arm & Hammer makes one. It's in the laundry section right next to the borax. About $3 or $4 for a box that'll last you many batches. Third, water. That's it. That's your ingredient list. No chemistry degree required. Your great-grandmother is nodding right now. Here's the process. Take that bar of soap and grate it. A regular cheese grater works fine, the side with the small holes. You want about 2 tablespoons of grated soap, though some folks use up to a 1/4 cup depending on how strong they like it. Put 4 cups of water in a pot on the stove, medium heat. Toss in the grated soap and stir it slow until every flake dissolves. Takes a few minutes, nothing more. Once it's smooth, add 2 tablespoons of washing soda. Stir that in until it's fully mixed. Then take it off the heat. Let it cool down. Could be a couple of hours, could be overnight. As it cools, it'll thicken up. Pour it into a glass jar or an old container you've got lying around. That's your dish soap. Whole thing took you maybe 15-20 minutes of actual work. The rest is just waiting. Now, I want to be straight with you about what this is and what this isn't. This is not going to look like the bright green liquid you squeeze out of a plastic bottle. It won't have that thick, syrupy pour. It might be slightly cloudy, a little gel-like, maybe a bit thinner than what you're used to. That's normal. There's no artificial thickener in this, no dye, no fragrance unless you choose to add a few drops of essential oil. Lemon or lavender work nice, but that's your call, not a requirement. The point is, it's going to look plain, homemade, and that's fine. Because you didn't make it to win a beauty contest, you made it to wash dishes. And that it does. Here's the honest truth about performance. Because I'm not going to sit here and tell you this is magic in a jar. For your everyday dishes, plates, cups, bowls, silverware, pots with normal food residue, this works well. It cuts through regular cooking grease, it cleans food off surfaces, it does the job. Where it's different is heavy-duty situations. That cast-iron skillet with baked-on grease from last night's fry, you might need a little extra soap and some soak time. Hard water areas, and you know who you are, you may notice the soap behaves a bit differently, maybe doesn't lather the same. That's not failure. That's just chemistry meeting your specific water. Adjust. Use a touch more. Let things soak a minute longer. Your first batch is an experiment. Your second batch is yours, tuned to your kitchen, your water, your hands. And that right there, that adjustment, that learning, that's the part nobody tells you about. The first time you use it, you might think it's not enough. You might reach for the old bottle out of habit. But give it a few days. Let your hands learn the feel of it. Because here's what happens quietly, without any fanfare. You stop thinking about it. The jar sits by the sink, you use it, the dishes get clean. Weeks pass, then a month, then 2 months. And that jar is still going. No trip to the store, no $5, no squeezing an empty bottle upside down and adding water to stretch the last drops. Just a jar you made yourself, still doing its job, still sitting right where you put it. There's a word for that feeling. It's not excitement. It's not even satisfaction exactly. It's something quieter. It's competence. The steady, unshowy knowledge that your own 2 hands handled this.
And if this is the kind of thing that makes sense to you, not the flashy kind of advice, but the quiet, practical old kind that actually saves you something real, then stick around here. There's more where this came from. Things your grandparents knew that nobody bothered to pass down. Hit subscribe if you want, but more importantly, go try this. That matters more than any button. I'll tell you what this was really about, now that we're at the end. It wasn't about dish soap. I mean, it was. The recipe is real, it works. It'll save you real money over a year. But the thing underneath the recipe is bigger than soap. It's a question. How many things in your daily life are you buying because you were never shown you could make them? How many small dependencies have piled up, not because you're not capable, but because somewhere along the way, capability got replaced by convenience, and convenience got replaced by habit, and habit turned into a bill you pay every month without thinking. The Amish didn't keep a secret. They just never stopped asking that question. And now, you're asking it too. That's worth more than any recipe I could give you. So tonight, when you're standing at that sink, after dinner, after the day's done, when it's just you and the dishes and the quiet, look at what's sitting there. Is it a plastic bottle with a label you can't pronounce? Or is it a jar you filled yourself with 3 things you understand for $3 that'll carry you through the season? That's not a small difference. That's not just frugal. That's a woman or a man who decided that their grandmother's way still has weight. And it does. It always did. You just needed someone to remind you. Now go make your soap, and then sit with how that feels. Because that feeling, that's the one they can't put in a bottle and sell back to you.